Thank you for joining the January 3rd, 2019 VOLTHA call. We do record this, so keep that in mind during discussions and any presentations if we have any today. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Since this is our first meeting back since sort of the middle of December, I think what we'll do today is kind of get caught up on where we are on status for Sprint 12. And we have a couple of new issues that came in during that time as well. And so we've kind of switched the Thursday, Tuesday type of agendas for the next couple of meetings. And then on Tuesday, if it is still needed, so we'll check with folks, we have a tentative assignment for some discussion on the Vol 736 and 1367 related to the flow decomposer and the technology profiles. And with that, we'll go over to our first new issue, which is 1368. And this one is create a README for explicit resource manager profile configuration. And this one does look like it was merged already. Let me see if we have Girish on the bridge. I don't see him on, so I'll check, but it looks like this one may be complete since we do have a merge in Garrett. Any questions that we need to take back to Girish for this item? And then the next new issue is 1369, downloading and upgrading ONU software with OpenOMCI cannot be canceled. So this one was opened about a week ago. And Lynn, I think I hear you on the bridge. Would you have any comments you'd like to make for this item? It looks like it may be.
Yeah, it's a small bug that I tested, further tested this function, and the code committed and is under review.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I think that can be done just in 1 or 2 days.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We do have the +2 in Garrett, so it is close to being complete. And we do have a few other folks who've joined the bridge, and Sean Ying, I see you're on as well. Any questions for Lynn on this item before we move on?
Just which ONUs has it been tested with?
Yeah, I just test with CIG ONUs. I don't have any other ONU in my hand, so
okay.
And for other ONU, you probably do need the software, right? So we don't. We probably need to work with other ONU supplier, see whether they can provide a version of the software we can upgrade from.
Yes.
Actually, I just saw that there's actually a new version of G.988 with some changes around how the window sizes are set based on basic or extended message set. But I think for now, everything's assumed to be basic message set. But longer term, we may need to have the ONU vendors take a look at that.
Yes. Just support basic OMSI, not support.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Chip can comment on the open OMSI.
I don't think I see Chip on yet today, so he may not be back yet. We'll see. Okay, other
Maybe
questions
later
for Lynn on this item? Okay, and we can sync up with Chip on that later. So let's go back. I think I saw Girish join. Girish, I had a question. Oh, it just got moved to done. All right, that was my question for you. So we are set. Thanks. All right, those were the 2 new issues. I'll just do one more refresh to make sure nothing else has come in. Okay, and with that, we can go over to the issues that we have for Sprint 12. And so we did a quick review of those status updates. I just wanted to check where we are for Sprint 12, since this is our last sprint for 2.0. And then I think there are a few changes that have come in since we met in December, but not too many. There were a couple items. Well, we can get down to those in a minute, but I think they may be complete. We'll take a look at those. Okay, and Ken, I think I saw you join the bridge.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi. Thank you for joining. So I wanted to check on some of the epics that you've been working on, your team's been working on for the core redesign and other items. And I know some were kind of under integration testing with the last portion. Where are we on the various issues? I don't know if you want to start with the 689 for the Twisted Python. That one, I think, integration testing.
Yeah, that's pretty much integration testing. There's we thought resolve, and we had an issue with the model, and we resolved that. So things was going well, and then we find another issue with the model. So it's I don't want to close this until we finalize the issue, because it's really when we're doing integration, when we create devices and we enable devices, that's when we start to see like some weird behaviors. And so I don't want to close this one until we truly go through the full path multiple times without any issues.
Good. Okay, sounds good to me.
So Ken, what do you mean the model issue? So the data model. I mean.
Yes, the data model within the core. Yeah, because it's a little bit different with from Python and Go, in the sense of we do a mapping of the protobuf into a structure in memory and a different structure in the database. Go being a highly structured language, and it's very type sensitive, and Python doesn't care about type at all. So it's when there was issues in the core with Python that will go unnoticed because Python just doesn't care, but Go does care. So we're seeing some of those issues that we didn't see before in the Python core. So we are resolving them. Like most of them has been resolved. We thought like we got to the bottom of it. And then we make some changes. Everything was working well, and then I saw another issue. So Stefan is working on that one.
Okay.
That's moving along. It's not like not moving. It is moving along. It's just like some of those issues are nasty.
Okay.
And so related to this, so on Vol 1027. One of the subtasks was 1173 for implement a storage data model. Is that one complete?
Yeah, this one is completed, yes.
Okay, let's move that one over. Thank you. All right. And then we've got the two other subtasks remaining for that one. Okay, and Stefan is assigned to both of those. All right. Let's go on to the next one, and that was for the gRPC API handler in Go. And so that one, we've got one remaining subtask, I believe.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because we are making changes in the OpenFlow, the OF agent. So the API that are remaining is really the one with OF agent. So it's like some of them they're implemented, but they need to be integrated and tested with OF agent. So you can put them as in progress,
okay.
But they're not done yet.
Got it. All right, I've moved that over to in progress. Thanks for that update.
Was this affecting the document you release on the interface?
No, this should not, because the documents are released for the interface is really between the core and the adapters. This one is between the core and the northbound like OpenFlow agents and
oh, okay, the northbound of the
yeah.
core.
Of the core, yeah.
Are there any kind of lessons learned as you transition from Python to Go that may be useful for the community?
Lesson learned. It's it's not an easy transition in a sense of like I said before, like Python like allow us to hide a lot of issues, potential issues, because you can map it type to anything, and Python just accept it.
Sure.
But Go is much more structured. In that sense, it's a challenge. But in terms of concurrency model, Go has definitely far superior concurrency model than the twisted Python. And we see that with the libraries that we're using. For example, the libraries that I'm using with Kafka, for example, the one with Go is way faster than the one with twisted Python. So there are some differences between them, and I think like we are going to see much more when we start to do full integration testing. Like at this time we have done partial integration testing, but when we have everything end to end, I think we'll see some differences. But by all means, Go is way better. In the long term, it's way better than twisted Python.
Yeah, but I guess one of the big lessons to be learned, I guess, is you got to be really careful about the types when you make that transition. Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah, it's what the good thing about Go is like it's you will see the problem right at compilation time. You don't need to go and run your applications and see that. You'll see at compilation time there's an issue there.
Well, I guess in some cases you don't, right?
yeah, absolutely. But it's more once it's compiled, you're pretty much sure it forces you like for example, like there are certain things like a simple example like in Python, you can pass like periodic parameters, and those parameters can be anything. Python doesn't care, but Go does care. So even if you pass in an interface, you need to make sure inside your routine, you need to make sure it's of the right type.
Yeah.
But Python, you don't have to do that. So there's a lot of small nitpicking with Go, but in the long term, it makes the application much more solid.
Sure. Thanks.
All right. Other questions for Ken?
And along that line, I know we built the adapters in Python. I also built the simulated OLTs and simulated ONUs for us to use like during our own load testing. I built them in Go using Golang. If anybody wants to create the adapters in Go, they can use that also as an example to build the adapters. So there you have the Python version, which is in Pansing, and then you have the Golang version in simulated OLT and simulated ONU. And those code are already submitted in the repo.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Ken. All right, let's move on to the next issues. 1022 is one we are working on scheduling a session to go over this, and it's not going to be during one of our regular TST calls for this targeted one. We're going to find a better time zone, time for that meeting to be held, and targeting hopefully next week, see if we have enough folks back from the holidays and try and get that scheduled next week. So I'll be working offline with folks to line up a time for that. Once we have something, I'll make it available on VOLTHA Discuss and on the core calendars, so everyone will have access to the link if you would like to join. Okay, let me go back to the board. So on 1022, any other items that need to be discussed today? I figured most of this would be deferred to that targeted discussion. Okay, then we'll go ahead and move on. I don't believe I saw Keita on the bridge, and I don't think we have anyone probably who can speak to this item for the BB-Sim work. Any comments from the group before we move on? I think we may have to sync up when we've got some other folks in the office. All right, then the flow decomposer, this one, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we have potentially next Tuesday for some targeted discussion on here following up from December. So Sean Massett, let me just check with you. I think you did have a brief meeting with Skype to go over some of this. I got the sense that we still need additional time for discussion. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think we need to have a discussion of the issues. Well, the problems that presented themselves along with the the implementation, mainly around basically the ONU and the OLT basically get messages independently for the upstream and downstream flows, and basically for upstream the ONU doesn't see the technology profile ID, and downstream the OLT doesn't see it. So ideally, because the technology profile is common between upstream and downstream, if we want the OLT and ONU adapters not to be stateful, i.e. I don't need to wait for both halves of the flow before I can go and do some configuration, we have to have a way that each unidirectional part of the flow has the technology profile ID and the meter band information available. So either that can be combined into a single, well, potentially combined into a single flow at the OpenFlow manager in ONOS, and all passed all the way down, or the flow decomposer could do the combination for us potentially. But again, that may require a stateful implementation.
Okay, thanks, Sean. So we have.
But Sean, who? I mean, based on what we know, whom around, even with the ONAV, will be best help regarding to the guidance on this one?
So I think we need Sorov and folks from Siena would be good from a historical perspective and knowledge of the flow decomposer or OpenFlow perspective. So it'd be good to have, Sorov had mentioned he would be there next Tuesday for the meeting, and so it'd be good if we can, or someone else with some knowledge of the flow decomposer could be available as well.
Yeah, I'll be available.
Okay, that'd be great. I sent out some emails as well to the interested parties describing the issue as well. So, so if we could have people join for that Tuesday meeting, that would be great.
Would that trigger any like OpenFlow redefinition or expansion?
So there are some, several solutions that are being discussed. I mean, some of them would be, in the adapters purely. Some would be, with help of flow decomposer. Some would potentially change the OpenFlow message definition. But, obviously some of those are quite, would have some extensive impact in terms of the different areas of code that would be affected. So it'd be good to have a discussion on, how we can make available to the adapters both the technology profile ID and the meter band information. Meter band's, I think, less of an issue, but the technology profile ID would need to be available for both upstream and downstream parts of the flow.
Mm-hmm. But okay, just a little bit of history here. So the technology profile ID right now, we only utilize one of the file, right? One of the field of OpenFlow message, right?
So either, yeah, so depending on which adapter you are and which direction the flow is for, it shows up in, either the ONU adapter or the OLT adapter. So, and unless you wait for both halves of the flow, then you don't know what the technology profile ID is. So you can't derive the instance information.
Okay.
Other questions on this topic for today?
So the call is next Tuesday, is that correct?
Yes. So that's
okay.
partly why we flip-flopped the schedules for our usual Thursday is usually our technical deep dives, and Tuesday are more going over new JIRAs and status updates. So we flipped them, thinking we'd probably get some a few folks that are still out of the office. Hopefully, we'll be able to attend next week.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions?
Julie, 1093 also in progress. 1093.
1093. Ah, got it. Thank you. Move that over. Thank you, Gamza.
Gamza, do you get the commit privilege yet on the GitHub?
Nope.
Not yet. Okay.
I'm waiting.
Okay, so Sean, maybe you and I can talk afterwards and see if we can figure out a way to move that along. So let's talk
Right.
later. That's all right, Sean. Okay. Thanks, Gamza. Thanks, Sean. All right, then moving down, 1082 is one that's going to naturally fall out from the redesign of the core or the core restructure, so no need to go over that. I did want to sync up a bit on where we are on the affinity router work that Sergio has been doing, and I'm not sure if he's on. Let me just check.
No, he's not.
Sergio,
no, he's rescheduled away.
Okay.
Most of the work is it's almost ready. There's just it's ready. It's just like adding. He needed me to add some APIs in the core for him to communicate with. So those APIs are already added. So he just needs to integrate with that, and then after that we do the full integration. So it's it has moved along quite a bit.
Good. And let me just do a reminder. I forgot to mention where we are in the schedule for this. We've got about 2 weeks left for this. So January 18th. So 2 weeks from tomorrow is the targeted end date for this sprint. And so, and Sean Missette, you may need to go on mute. Oh, that's better actually. Okay. So that's just, if there are items that are in risk for completion during that time, please let me know as we're going through the status updates. 1242, we haven't heard any response yet, so we'll just, this one I think is probably going to end up getting moved out. We haven't had a response for that one, but we'll keep it here while the sprint is still active. And then we got the update on the affinity router items, so I think we can skip over the related portions. And Chip, I think I just joined the bridge for OpenOMCI. We've got 1317, one of the defects that was open that you were working on.
Yeah, and that's gone into review last Friday.
Great.
Or so.
All right. And anything you need from us at this point?
No, it's the holidays.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Chip. And then 1347, Craig, I don't believe Craig is on today.
I didn't see him.
Yeah, so we'll probably need to wait till next week for an update on this item. unless anyone has been in communication with him on that. So actually, Girish, I saw you on, I think mid-December when we met, you were trying to replicate this as well with your setup. Any updates that you have for that?
I don't see this issue. I think it was confirmed that this issue is not reproducible with the latest VOLTHA. So
okay.
I'm not sure if this issue still exists.
Okay. Thanks, Girish. And then BBSIM, I think we'll move over those today since we don't have Kate on the bridge. Let me move down. And then, Ken, I know you'd mentioned the simulated ONU and OLT adapters earlier. So this one was one I had to follow up if this one is complete.
Yeah, it's complete. Yeah, yeah, it is complete. Yeah.
Thank you. And then the last one here was for BBSIM as well. We probably don't have the right folks on to address this either. I think this one may be complete because I have three closed Garrett's in here for this item. So we'll check with Keita-san when he's available. Okay. And then we do have a number in the to-do state 483. I think we were still waiting for a timeline from Broadcom and not have anything last time. We periodically check on this. I'm guessing that's still the case. I believe it was that way in December as well. Amit, have you heard anything new?
Yeah, so what we heard from Broadcom is that for the alarms, the fix will be available in the next release of BAL, which is 3.0.
Okay. Let me add a comment here.
Is that their February release? I think there's a February release coming out, right?
Yeah, the next release. I'm not sure about the date, but I think it's mid-Jan or Feb. Yeah.
You said that was 3.0?
Yeah.
Thank you. Great. So it won't make our timeline for 2.0, but at least we have some progress there. Thank you for that. And then we have a BBSIM issue that I think when Keita has completed some of the other things, that will probably get pulled in. This one is sort of follow-up we had. I think we're getting, let me see what we have for folks who are on the bridge today. So we do still have a couple items that we do not have assignees for. 1090 was one with the operational status ONT Uni port data. So if we have anyone who is available to work on that, feel free to assign it to yourself. At this point, we hadn't found anyone. 1264, this one was in progress. Oh, no, sorry, not in progress. Is being worked by Shad for OpenOLT, and I don't believe he's on the bridge, so I think we'll move over for that as well. 1327 is related to OpenOLT support for meter bands, and then that one, Girish, is assigned to you. Are we thinking this one will have time to complete in this sprint?
I'm just waiting for the changes from Core to get merged.
Okay.
I think there's still some discussion on that part. So once that is available, I can start working on this.
Okay, thank you. And then we have a couple OMCI related issues in here as well. I'll start with the first one here, 1330. So Chip, this is one that you have assigned for you as well for errors encountered during MIB reconciliation. And I think this one will be completed within sprint 12.
Yeah, and I'll need to get with Matt with that because we don't have any Nokia ONUs available.
Okay. 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 Then I'll go, I guess, skip down one, I think, to 1336, since that's another open OPI one as well. As for get request tasks, need to handle table attributes appropriately.
And I'll be starting that today now that I'm back from vacation.
All right, thank you. Let me go back to the one that I skipped over, which is 1332. OLT becomes unreachable after deleting and recreating Volt in XOS. And this is one that I think, so we have the steps to reproduce are included in here. We don't have anyone assigned to work on this issue. It came up, I think, after our last meeting that we had on reviewing. No. This was in November. Sorry, this one opened up. Okay, so if we have anyone who can take a look at that, then let me know and we can get you assigned to the issue. Okay, next item have.
But this one needs someone actually working to have a whole Siva pod installed, right? I think most of the, as far as I know, not all the people around here has XOS installed. This is, they have to trigger it based on the deleting and restored it through the XOS, right?
Yes, that's right.
Do we have anybody can replicate this one? Other than
got on the bridge today.
I don't know whether Redis has the whole Siva pod installed.
No, we don't have it.
And then this is not simulated OLT. I think this should be the open OLT, right? If I remember correctly. Let me double check with the Foundry and see whether they can.
If we could get someone from Foundry to take a look at that. Thanks, Sean. Okay. Next item was 1339, and this one is in the to-do state, and Girish is currently assigned to that as well.
I'll be submitting the changes in the next few days.
Great. So it sounds like you've been working on this one already. Should I move it into in progress?
Yes, that's better.
Okay, thank you. All right. Oops. There we go. And then we have another BB-Sim one. We'll follow up with Keita later. And a couple of them, actually, one was the EPON support for technology profile. He had some work he was planning to do for testing purposes for that. And a subtask, so we can move over those today. 1352 was one Craig is assigned to, and that he's not on the bridge day, so we'll move over that one as well. I think we're probably almost done for today. 1366 is one without an assignee currently. This was where numerous reflows are being sent from the adapter to agent as each flow is added to device. And last time we met and reviewed this, Girish indicated he'd seen this as well. So we've seen it from different sources. Yes.
I'll try to provide a fix for this. I think I know the problem.
Okay.
I'll work on a fix. You can assign this to me.
Great. Thank you, Girish. Okay, and then 1367 is part of the discussion for next Tuesday. And so we'll go over that in conjunction with the other technology profile issues. That's our targeted discussion next Tuesday. Okay, so I think that takes us through what we have in
Hey,
scope.
Julie.
Yes.
Let's go back to the 1332 about XOS stuff.
Yep.
I think this may be related to the script testing. You know, they said.
Okay.
I'm looking at this, right? They said, you know, and then the repeat step 1 and all to go, and then the comment is by adding a sleep before step 3, the problem goes away.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think it's a scripting. So I'm not sure this is in real life scenario. I don't know whether, you know, someone rebooted and probably will not turn it up right away. Let me find it out. I think this is probably automation testing creating the issue.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Sean. All right. Then I think that takes us through the main points of the agenda. We do have some future meetings that we need to start getting targeted in, I think. One of those, so this one, so we're going to try and coordinate a time, hopefully next week, for VOLT 22 discussion. We were looking for a time slot for a recap of what was done for multicast with the VOLTA 1.0 POC. Sean, you've been kind of coordinating that in the background. Do you have a target date in mind for this?
I was hoping to, you know, to do it next week also.
Okay.
Last time I think Ahmed was out of town, so he couldn't do that. So we need to re-engage that.
So should we target January 10th?
Next Thursday. January 10th. Yeah. And now I'll confirm that.
Okay, thank you. And then we had a few other items for future discussion, but this one I knew that we had sort of a near-term target to get that one done. We had a request for some review of the FTTB-related changes for Deutsche Telekom, and then look at PPPoE, and then also what would be required for EPON support and tech profiles. So those were 3 future topics that we're loosely tracking on here until we have a date for some detailed discussion. And typically we would do this on a Thursday call, but we sometimes move things around like we did this week. Okay.
So on the overview of,
yeah.
So on the overview of, so I think I see Bjorn on the call. Is there something Bjorn wants to present about some changes regarding to supporting the FTTB? Is he still on?
Okay, now you should hear me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I was on mute. You mean I should present something now? So I'm not prepared to do that.
No,
not now.
Yes, now.
That's a bit too short for me. So, but anyhow, of course, I can present things about that on one of these Thursday calls. No problem.
Great.
Okay. So
yeah, I just want to Julie clarify what does it mean overview of the changes. So okay, so the Bjorn you are requesting that to present some changes. Okay, then that's good. And then we'll work with you.
The request had been from the community, so they could understand better what those changes were.
Okay.
Okay.
And so that's what had triggered this as a future agenda topic. And so if Bjorn can present kind of what their requirements are specific to FTTB, I think that hopefully will be all that's needed here.
Yeah,
I think it was mentioned in 1 or 2 of the JIRA issues.
Yeah, I think that's not a problem. So I can make an overview. What are the requirements and what we already did in the past? Maybe not in the final versions, but for some fixing to make our field trial running. So
great, thank you, Bjorn. All right.
And then also the timeline. I think right now FTTB means GDAP fast, right? So potentially it's something for the. I think originally we put it at 3.0 timeframe. So yeah. So we want to know the timeline you want to see this in place. So.
Of course, I will do so because there are a few options, or at least two options to handle that, and maybe one is easier to realize than the other. So I will give an overview and a kind of expectation from our side when we need what.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Are there other topics that people are aware of that they would like to get on the list for a future deep dive or presentation? Okay. Then we'll keep our list as it is right now. We've got a couple meetings near term. Hopefully we'll have both of these covered next week. And then again, we have the deep dive discussion on next Tuesday rather than the typical status updates. And then that will take us through, we'll have a week remaining after that for the final week of Sprint 12 based on our current schedule. I think that's it for what I needed to cover with folks today. Any additional questions or comments that need to be addressed with the group? Okay, I'm not hearing anything. I'll go ahead and stop the recording. Thanks, everyone.